Well, good morning. It is Wednesday. Oh my goodness, the week is going by so fast. And it's been a while since I've done any new recordings for my podcast, but I have one today actually. So early this morning, I said something to my husband that things just come to me. And I told him, I said, only Mark Anthony gets to critique Cleopatra. Remember that. Only Mark Anthony gets to critique Cleopatra. Now, what I meant by that was, I have watched over the years different relationships and dynamics between men and women. And I went to a bridal shower recently, and they passed around the microphone. They said, does anybody have any advice for marriage? Anybody been married a long time? Well, surprisingly, there were some people there who had been married, but they didn't want to give advice. Maybe they felt like, I don't really know what to tell you because everybody's relationship is different. And what works for mine might not work for yours. So I don't know what I should tell you because I don't know your interwoven dynamics. But of course, you always have the older people who've been married like 50 plus years. They'll stand up and say, hey, what I do is I don't put a lot of pressure on him. I accept him as he is. Everybody has some good advice. But I had some unique advice. I said, you know what? I'm going to get up. And your marriage doesn't have to be perfect for you to give somebody advice. Sometimes the imperfections is that's what you want to share. Like, hey, don't do this. Don't do that. Because this will happen based on my experience. So it doesn't always have to be like a rose-colored vision when you stand up and share your advice. And I think that's what people get confused about. They're like, oh, well, if I can't tell you exactly what works, then I don't want to say anything. No, tell me what doesn't work. I'll start with that so that I can avoid going down that road. So I think it's important to know that at the end of the day, the way we're socialized makes us have certain things in common. And I was watching something on YouTube the other day. Somebody was sharing something on his podcast, and they were talking about masculine roles and how men are feeling overwhelmed or frustrated with the roles that women put on them. And that to be a provider and to be this, that, and the other. And, I don't want to sound like Nancy Grace when she opens her segment and says, boo-hoo. She always says boo. But I was listening to this guy and I said, really? Women have been having babies, living in poverty, feeding kids with $1, and nobody asks us, or very seldom do they ask us, are you put upon by the burdens of the expectations of women? We expect you to go to work, make the same income, go 50-50 on a check at a restaurant, give our babies my last name and my legacy, put them in the good schools, take them to the doctor's appointments, teach them value. I'm just curious. Boo-hoo. Yeah, we all have our crosses to bear. So I'm listening to this guy, and his big thing is, I don't want to be a provider. That's an expectation that society has put on me as a man. I thought, bless your heart, what you don't understand is that makes you less desirable in the psyche of a woman. Women are wired and programmed a certain way, and that's why society is set up a certain way. It's not that we're conforming to the structured society and the roles. It's that those roles were born out of our wiring. We as people set up situations that make us feel comfortable based on our wiring. I remember I took my cat to the vet and she said, if she's in pain, you won't know it. And I said, why not? She said, because that's innate in them. In the animal kingdom, cats are taught to disguise pain for survival because they can't let the bigger animals know that they're vulnerable because they become prey. So even though she's not in the jungle and it's thousands of years later and she's a house cat, that's their wiring. They will not let you see the pain. So when the guy said, well, I don't want to be a provider, I said, women are wired to want providers, to want support, to want to be cared for. There was a gentleman who was a male escort. He said, women pay me for the fantasy. Not only do I have to be in shape, have a chiseled chest and a six-pack, I have to bring an energy and an environment to make her want to pay for this experience. He says, so you have to know women. If you don't know women, then you won't be worth the money. And so I think that guy, when he said, I don't want to be a father, I said, bless his heart, he don't know women. I said, well, that might work for him. Maybe he just wants to stay home by himself and live alone in a camper or something. But if you think somebody's going to come have your kids and do your laundry and share the bills with you 50-50, then all you got to do is show up and beat your chest and say, I'm the man and I don't need to be a provider. The girl said on the show when he said that, it was a girl who was moderating. She said, well, then what is your purpose? And they said, can you believe that? She said, what is your... I'm thinking, well, yeah, can you answer that? Because what is your purpose? if, you, if you're not trying to be a partner with me, if you're not trying to uplift our situation, why are you here? Well, I just thought my charismatic smile and my voice is enough to carry our relationship. No, that's not enough. I'm sorry to disappoint you. You're going to have to bring something else. So I think that's something they're promoting now, because I remember Jason told me the other day, he said, they said marriages are down and women are really seeking relations. The young generation, this new group, they're not seeking relationships with men. I said, yeah, I noticed that. And then when I watched these podcasts, I said, oh, no wonder they're not want, the men don't fulfill a purpose. What's your purpose? Well, I'll just show up and, I'll have sex with you and I'll head on out. I won't be paying for anything or supporting you or our family, but I just will get to lay next to you. That's not what we're doing. That's not how the game is played. So, and I'm the same way on women. I want a husband. I said, well, I'll just lay around. I said, well, are you raising kids? Are you doing anything to help the family? Are you helping? Well, no, I just want to go shopping. I had a friend like that back in high school. I'm just going to be a housewife. I'm going to go shopping. I'm going to hang out with my friends. I said, well, okay. I was like, I think she's in a fantasy world. When you're in a relationship, there are things we both have to bring to that relationship and duties that we have and roles that we have to fulfill. You don't just get to lay up and be cute. But I think she thought that was her commodity. I'm bringing my trophyism to this relationship, and then you just pay for it. That is not the case. So anyway, I'm going back. I wanted to give you some background as to why I gave this advice at the bridal shower. I said, it's important that in a relationship, and I'm speaking for men, from my perspective and what I know of men, just male friends, my husband, my father, my brother, men are very competitive. I mean, I saw this when I was younger and I was single, and how men would react, if I walk into a restaurant or a store, automatically everybody stands at attention, these dudes, and then they're trying to denigrate each other in front of me so that the other one looks less eligible to me. They would say things to undercut each other. And I kept saying, why are they kind of putting their buddies down? It's like, may the best man win. She just walked in, and I want to show, like a peacock, I want to show that I'm the better guy than he is. So the first person that steps to her, I'm going to denigrate him, and then I'm going to step up. So I watched this dynamic, and my husband said, yeah, we are very competitive. So I took that and I stored that in my mental safe deposit box. I said, okay, so they're very competitive. And so when you're in a marriage sometimes, men lose their competitive edge. They feel like, well, I'm not competing with anybody now. I landed the prize. I'm good. And that drive is what propels them and motivates them. It's that competitive drive. And so I think that's why they like sports. They buy season tickets to these games and stuff. I always thought, what is so big of, I'm not a big sports person, but they're watching the competition, and they can live vicariously through the players. So it makes sense. They got to find that competitive edge. That's in them, like the cat who conceals the pain. There's a thing that they're wired to do. So I stood up, and my advice was, in a nutshell, I think I rambled on a bit and told some stories to kind of inadvertently get to this ending, but I'm going to give you the highlights. I explained that never allow your husband to feel that he is 100% relaxed in your relationship. That competitive edge is what drives them. They need an adrenaline rush. They need to work for something. And if they feel comfortable, they will start to blame you. You say, well, why is he being rude to me? Why is he talking to me this way? I've known people who were doctors. I knew professional couples She was a doctor, he was a dentist. And she said, I have to keep checking him on a regular basis to tell him, watch who you're talking to. And I thought, why are all men the same, no matter what their economic background? Why do they slip into this mode of comfort where they think they can start saying and doing whatever they want? They can relax and expect that you will go along with it. So my advice was always keep him in an adrenaline rush mode where he's always seeking to win, always seeking to win you over. Remember when kids are little and they bring home report cards or pictures from class? They drew a picture, say, Mom, here's a picture I drew. And then the mother puts it on the refrigerator or puts it in the photo album. She's displaying her approval of what he did in class. He still needs that even when he's married. He needs some sort of validation and approval and affirmation from the woman in the relationship. And if he's not seeking it, then he's not getting it. So it's a tricky game. You have to keep him seeking it, bringing home those A report cards, bringing home that artwork, even as a 40-year-old man, so that you can say, okay, that's a great job. I am so appreciative of what you did. Dr. Phil's son gave this woman advice on one of the shows. It was a relationship show. And he brought her some flowers. He was trying to make up to his man. His wife. They were trying to mend their marriage. And his son was on. He was, Dr. Phil always featuring his family, trying to get everybody paid. But anyway, he had his son on there giving advice to the couple. And they show where the husband brings her these flowers, and she kind of just dismisses it. Because I think in her heart, she had already been so disappointed by him in the past that the flowers were just like a superficial gesture to her. Like this is so deeper than just a quick remedy of flowers and candy. There's too much damage in my heart. I don't trust you. She didn't articulate that, but I could see it in her eyes. So when he presented these flowers to her, she kind of dismissed it like, oh yeah, whatever. And Dr. Phil's son pulled her to the side and he says, I don't know if I were him, if I would continue to do these outward displays of affection. And so she looked at him inquisitively and she said, what do you mean? He said, well, there's no reward for it. There's no appreciation. So what's his incentive? And I thought about that. I said, men are inherently selfish. It wasn't enough of a reward that she received the flowers. He needs to receive something when he drops off the flowers. Let that marinate with you for a minute. It's not about you. You say, well, he brought me flowers. I smiled and said, thank you. No, he's wondering, what am I getting? For now that I gave you these flowers, what am I getting? They think this way. Then it doesn't have to be, oh, okay, well, you gave me flowers. Now I'll give you sex. It doesn't even have to be that. But it has to be some sort of external acknowledgement. And so when he said that, I thought about that. So I'm putting all these things together. And so when I gave that advice, I said, make sure that he's always working towards that. He's always working towards being better and being acknowledged by you. Don't let him feel comfortable, because that's when the resentment sets in, because he's no longer getting your reassurance that he is winning. He needs constant reassurance that he is winning because he's in a competitive mode and he needs to win. And everything he does, he needs to be reassured and he needs to win. So if in fact he is relaxed, your marriage is going to go downhill. I remember watching Drew Zadora on Housewives of Atlanta. And I knew her marriage was over when her husband, Ralph, left for a few days and didn't tell her where he was. Now, and he did something else that was very egregious. He put cameras in the house so he could keep an eye on them, the family, while he was gone. Didn't tell him about these cameras. You have that means you're spying on me. My mother's in this house, walking around in our pajamas or whatever we're doing. You have cameras. You wanted to keep an eye on us, but you didn't want us to know where you were. And I said, oh, her marriage is over. He's out of control. Can you imagine a woman leaving her husband for 5 days and not saying where she was going and just up and leaving like that? And figuring it's okay to leave some cameras? Oh, my goodness. But I realized that the way she was indoctrinated, she always led with, I'm a Christian, the man should lead. I'm a Christian, the man should. So once you're indoctrinated like that, you're open and susceptible to being played. So what happened is he was gone. I said, oh, she can call this a day. She was trying to go to counseling and my childhood trauma, when I was a young man, my mother would leave for days at a time or something that the psychiatrist tried to rationalize that he picked up this behavior. I thought, no, no, no. Parents do bad things all the time. Doesn't mean that your trauma allows you to victimize other people. That I don't accept that. If that's the case, half the child molesters would be running free because they were molested, they molested others, so we got to give them a pass. No, no, no. You don't get to revisit your childhood trauma on somebody else and abandon your family for 5 days. That's not going to happen. Well, I think Drew did not value herself for a number of reasons. Could have been how she grew up. Could have been religious indoctrination, where she felt she was second to him. I know that he adopted her son, and she felt very grateful for that because she had had a child by somebody else who didn't want to claim her son. And that's got to be profoundly hurtful for a man to father a child with you and it's bounce out and ghost you and say, hey, I'm sorry, what it is, take care, bye. That's got to be a dagger to your self-esteem, that he didn't want you or his baby with you. And so I think that when Ralph swooped in like a knight in shining armor, she gives him a pass on a lot of things, and he picked up on that. He said, I don't have to keep reassuring and winning. Once I adopted this boy, I'm good. Now I can coast. And I got a free black card to do whatever I want to do. So it's important for us to be conscious of the fact that even when you figure out, let me give him a break. He's done something very heroic for me and my children. So let me give him a break. He doesn't have to work as hard anymore. Nope. Unfortunately, they're not wired that way. They still have to work. So I say that to say that when I see a man getting comfortable and saying things like, oh, well, I can leave for a few days and not tell you where I am, because after all, I've already done something heroic. So I don't owe you any kind of extra responsibility or kindness. I've maxed out my card here. I've maxed out my reward certificate here. I don't have to earn anymore. No. If that's the one that I'm going on record, that's my advice. Now, I've been married 34 years in January. So I guess that's 33 and a half years. What I will say is one of the things that, and my husband probably already has a predisposition to wanting to win approval because as a child, he was abandoned. So he's going to always be seeking approval no matter what. Okay, so that might work to my advantage as far as being able to put things in place so he can win. He can always win. I always got a way for you to win. So if you're seeking to win and be acknowledged for the win, if you want to play in a Super Bowl every week, I'm your wife because I got plenty of games for you to win. Okay. You will never relax around here. So what happened was, I just told him this morning, I said, Mark Anthony is the only person who can criticize Cleopatra. When I see that you're bored and you're looking for ways to lash out indirectly, I have to stand up for myself. I remember watching an episode of King of Queens. I don't know if you guys watched the show King of Queens. Oh my God, it was such a funny show. Doug and Carrie, the chemistry they have as far as comedic chemistry and timing, that was such a good show. But Carrie's personality is a lot like mine. She doesn't let Doug run over her, right? So matter of fact, we had people in our family that say when they watched that show, they said, it reminds me of you and Jason. Jason's personality is more like Doug. Yours is more like Carrie. So what happened is Doug had gained some weight. And Carrie was secretly, she didn't want to hurt his feelings. So what she did was she bought pants that were a size up because he would have her do his shopping because he was busy. He didn't care about clothes. So if they going somewhere doing something, she said, I'm running to get you an outfit. We're going to this or that. He's okay. Well, just, my size. Go get me something. I trust your taste. And she had been buying clothes that were bigger. He had gained some weight and she didn't want to tell him. So he found out. He said, you mean you've been buying clothes? She said, well, I was trying to get you to lose weight. I was cooking certain foods and doing certain things hoping you would lose weight, but you weren't. You just was eating and doing whatever you wanted to do. So I'm trying to tiptoe around you. So she bought these pants. He got mad. So the episode shows you how men can be petty and retaliate. He decided because his self-esteem was low, because he gained weight, I'm going to bring you down and make your self-esteem low. So he criticized that she had a big forehead, she laughed too loud, and she wore too much makeup. That was his shoot back. So on this episode, the humor in it is she tried to cover her forehead up. She started wearing less makeup. She tried to curb her laugh. And when he was talking to Deacon, he said, it's not the same Carrie. I don't like this new Carrie. Deacon said, well, you did it. You're the one who criticized her. He said, yeah, but I didn't realize that without those things, I wasn't going to like her. I like her laugh. I like the way she looks. He said, well, you jacked yourself. You told her that you didn't because you wanted to take a shot at her. He said, now I got to undo this because I was just trying to be petty and hurt her self-esteem. And now it's backfiring on me because I got a new Carrie that I don't like. Okay, so he didn't like this highly censored, low self-esteem Carrie. He liked the old Carrie that was unapologetic, laughed loud, wore her makeup in all kind of way. But now because he's trying to retaliate in the self-esteem department, he's stuck with a new Carrie. So what that goes to show women is that when men are making these comments about you, it has nothing to do with you. It's all about them. And I have friends, one or two of you may be listening to this recording, that I can see that you don't have the upper hand in your relationship. He's done a Doug and Carrie episode on you where he's pointed out so many flaws that you're now fixated on fixing those and less fixated on him. It's like a smoke and mirrors effect. I don't want you to see my flaws, so let's just point out yours. And then that way you can be so preoccupied with what your perceived flaws are based on what I've said that you won't focus on me. And therefore, if you're not focused on me, I'm not winning. So then I resent you even more because I don't have anything to compete for because you don't see yourself as a prize. I've broken you down. You no longer see yourself as a prize. And yet I resent you for not seeing yourself as a prize because if you saw yourself as a prize, you would be forcing me to have to win every day. That's what my mother used to call a trick bag. You know, somebody put you in a trick bag. You can't win. He created your situation so that you inevitably fail. And then when you fail, he blames you for him not winning because part of your failure is not holding him accountable. And the only reason you don't hold him accountable is because he put you in a position where you're too distracted by feeling you're not worthy to hold him accountable until you fix what's wrong with you and you be accountable to him. Woo, isn't that deep? You might have to play that back just to understand that trick. So it's like a hamster wheel. So here's my 3-prong test. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to help the women of America out this morning by giving you my test. And, you know, I'm talking to my husband, and sometimes I can say things that really hurt his feelings. I can't believe you said. He comes back the next day. You are funny. You should have a podcast. He always says that. That was a podcast episode. You really let into me. I said, you know, my most spontaneous reactions are what needs to be captured in a reality show. That's why they have producers walking around with the camera. You guys, the stuff I give you here is not half as good as the stuff that just comes out in the course of an 8-hour day. But here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you some highlights. Okay. There are 3 things. In the law, you know, you learn about what elements need to be satisfied to meet certain criteria. Like for bullying, you say, well, is my child being bullied? You say, well, let's look at the elements. Was there an intent to harm, imbalance of power, threat of further aggression? If you have these 3, then you have bullying, right? I teach that in my bullying workshops. Okay, so here are 3 things that will allow a man to critique you. 3 things where he gets a critique. Since he wants to talk about your laugh or your makeup or how much weight you gained or what you don't look like or your nail polish or your braids need to be retouched up or what. Okay, here's what we're going to do. You get to say that, husband or boyfriend, only if you meet these 3 things, okay? Number 1, you must be providing me 24-hour butler service. That means that I don't have to cook. I don't have to clean. I don't even have to shop for myself. You've provided me 24-hour butler service. That's number 1. Now remember, there's 3 things you got to do if you want to critique me. Number 2, get a pencil, get some paper and pencil. You need to write these down. Number 2, my passport must have been stamped within the last 6 months. That means you've taken me somewhere exotic, out of the country, within the last 6 months. At least. There's got to be a stamp. I mean, I got to pull it out and say, oh, we just got back from so-and-so. Okay, so 24-hour butler service. Number 2, passport must be stamped within the last 6 months. And number three, got a pencil paper? You must have a magic penis. Number 3, a magic penis. Now remember, all of these things must coincide together. You might say, well, Shannon, I'll just take number 3. Don't settle. We need all 3. We need 24-hour butler service, a passport stamp within the last 6 months, and a magic penis. Meaning every time, at least 95% of the time that I lay up with you, it's wonderful. I'm being very censored. You better be bringing them orgasms. Magic, you got 3 things. If you fit those 3, I don't care what you say. You can talk about my hair. You can talk about my nail polish. You can talk about, if you do those 3 things, then you can say whatever you want. Until that day, you cannot say anything. Focus on yourself. Okay? He doesn't have to look good. Notice I didn't put looks. I didn't say, oh, he got to look good. He got to have a 6-pack. That's too easy. Going to the gym and cutting out carbs, that's too easy. I don't want to make this easy for you. You know why it's going to be hard to do this list? Because this list requires you to be about me. And most men put themselves first. The 24-hour butler service means you care about my comfort and my mindset of relaxation. You want me to be relaxed and comfortable and want for nothing. You want to be a provider. Remember that guy said, I don't want to be a provider. I said, well, he must want a celibate life, unless he got a hooker account, and I guess he can Cash App, be on OnlyFans or something. But if you're not providing, if I don't feel safe and secure, 24-hour butler service, comfortable, then you need to be quiet. Because I'm sharing the load. I'm bringing about things that make both of us comfortable. I don't need to hear your mouth in the process of doing it. Passport stamp means, again, you're about me. Honey, where would you like to go? I think I'd like to take you to London this weekend. Let's stay for a few days. Catch a flight out of JFK. How about that, honey? Oh, you're so sweet, dear. Again, I'm thinking about you and us together, creating memories and enjoying life and reflecting on things. And then number 3, I really got to be about you. Because it's not how you look. Women are not visual like men. It's about how you got inside my head. If you can get inside my brain, if you can get inside my head, you will always give me an orgasm. That's just the trick. That's the game. The escorts, they know. They say, once I know the client, once I know the woman I'm dealing with and how to create her fantasy, she'll drop 50 grand. Rich women pay me. He said, I get cars, I get Mercedes-Benzes. He said, I get gifts. And I'm on payroll because I bring about the fantasy that she needs, and she's willing to pay for it. Average man doesn't know that. Well, I just want to keep your self-esteem down. I want to keep you guessing if I'm faithful to you or not. I want you running and checking my phone. Yeah, okay. See how long that relationship lasts. I was watching Ready to Love the other day, and there's a girl on there. She's a funny girl, young lady. I want to say she's probably in her 30s. Very loud, very stereotypically ghetto. Got a tattoo on her neck. You know, we can assume she did not go to the finest schools. She didn't go to charm school or boarding school. So she's raw and edgy. But I respected her. I'm going to tell you why I respected her so much. She knows her worth. There's a guy on there who was a firefighter. And she kept saying, well, am I your match? Because on that Friday, they have to reveal if they want to be in a relationship with that person. He said, well, I don't know yet. You know, it's between you and one other person. She said, well, when will you know? Because Friday's our deadline. And I'm serious about you. I don't have anybody else that I want to spend time with and be with. Can you say that about me with confidence? Well, like I said, I'm staying true to the process. She said, okay. So the day before, she said, okay, now we're 24 hours out. Have you made a decision? Well, like I said, why are you bringing this up? I told you I'll let you know tomorrow. Now, the other guys, the women that they told them, I'm picking you on Friday. Told him, I want to be with you. You everything I ever wanted. They told him this before Friday. When these guys walked out, they had flowers and roses for these women. And they reassured them on national TV, I want to be with you. You're the one I've wanted this whole time. There were no others. This guy shows up on Friday when you announce who you're going to pick with no flowers. Just walked out with himself. And she looked at him. Remember, he didn't bring flowers. I wanted to say that the producers tell you to bring flowers. That they kind of hint like, hey, man, just FYI, so-and-so and so-and-so, they brought flowers. Might want to have some flowers. Just, so you don't look weird on national TV. Nope, nobody told him. I guess they wanted you to see who he really was. So he comes out with no flowers, and she's standing there. And he says, I just want to say that, I feel like I want. She said, stop. Don't even say anything. She said, listen, I'm going to choose myself. I'm not going to choose you, so there's no need for you to choose me. She said, if it took you to this moment, this very moment to decide if I was the one, then I was never the one. Because if I was the one, you wouldn't have had to think about it. You would have known. You wouldn't have to ponder and wrestle with it. When you know, you know. She said it clearly, you didn't know. And I don't feel like being your default or your, well, okay, I'm not so sure, but, she seems to be into me, so she didn't want to be that person. And I had so much respect for her when she walked away from him. You could say, well, girl, the way she did it, if you watched the show, she was loud and ghetto and, yeah, all of those things. But at the end of the day, she knew her worth. And a lot of women walking around with nice poise and charm school posture with the self-esteem and default. So I respected her. She had more self-esteem than a lot of women with bachelor's and master's degrees. She had self-esteem. So, another thing, what I want to tell you guys, let me see. Oh, I remember Cynthia Bailey when I told you about Drew and her husband was leaving and disappearing. And she was like, I don't know where Ralph was. Cynthia said, my boyfriend Mike would never do that. And she said, no. She said, no, because if he gets to leave for 5 days, I get to leave for 5 days. That means when he gets back, I get to go. And Cynthia's a supermodel. That's like Naomi Campbell having a boyfriend and saying, oh, you left for 5 days? Let me make a call. She got dudes to give her blood diamonds. She had to testify against a dude. She dates millionaires. So you said you want to go away for 5 days? Let me show you something. So, again, when you know your worth, nobody plays those kind of games with you. You feel like you can't play those games. I remember, this person's not my friend anymore, but back when she was, not a close friend, but she was somebody that I knew. And she had a birthday party. And I'm big on gifts. You guys know my love language. Whenever I have an opportunity to give you a gift, I'm going to give you a gift. Whether it's your birthday or if I make something for you to eat, I'm going to give you a gift. Okay, so it was her birthday and I was excited. I'm like, okay, I wonder what I'm going to get her. She tells everybody on this invitation, oh, by the way, no gifts. I said, wait a minute, no gifts. I was kind of mad, right? I was like, why can't I get a gift? Why are you controlling my ability to express how I feel? So I get to this party with no gift. It really bothered me. I was very uncomfortable. I'm not the kind of person that shows up at your birthday without a gift. It just feels awkward and not nice. So I show up at this party going against every instinct I have. And I was mad. And I said, I pulled her to the side. I said, why did you say we couldn't buy gifts? Can I buy you a drink? Can I buy something? She said, well, no, you can buy me a drink if you want. I said, please let me do something. And she said, no, you can buy me a drink. I said, what made you do that? She said, because I thought nobody would come or they'd hesitate to come if they had to buy me a gift. I thought, wow, that is low self-esteem. You mean you surround yourself with people who would not even buy you a gift? So you have to make it and accommodate their lack of interest in blessing you? That hit me so hard. I felt so sorry for her. Let me explain something to you. This is just me. You guys already know me, so this is just for anybody who doesn't know me, who's never met me and are listening to this because somebody sent them the recording. If I ever talk to my friend, my so-called friend, and the first thing out their mouth is, well, do I have to bring a gift? We're done. Matter of fact, The friendship's over when you ask me that question. If that question comes out of your mouth, as a matter of fact, if you don't like me and you're listening to this recording, say, oh, that's how I can get rid of Shannon. Do it. Because that's how you can get rid of me. You can break up with me by doing that. You can say, I'm breaking up with Shannon today. I'm going to tell her I'm not bringing it again. I'm going to ask her if I cannot bring it again. That's no, you can break up. You can break up with me then. You don't have to ever worry about me stalking you, calling you, winning you back over. Another way you can end our friendship is if you ask me, if you seem put off by the fact that you have to do me a favor. Like, when is it? I'll see if I can make it. If nothing else is going on, we're done. We're done. We're done. We're done. And third, if I have to do something to get you there. Well, what's the menu? Well, are you serving shrimp? If you even dare ask me about a menu, we're done. 3 things. You can ask me what's on the menu. Hesitate because you're holding out for a better invite on that same day. Or figure out how not to bring a gift. And then we're done. Those 3 strikes you're out. We're done. We're done. So that is how I live my life, because those are 3 things I would never do to a friend. I'm only holding my friends to the standard that they need to hold me to. So if those are things you want to do, and you say, I've been so tired of Shannon's ass, you mean that's all I have to do? Then I've just given you the secret. That's how you get rid of me. Make it about the menu and not me. Make it about the gifts and not me. Make it about your schedule and not me. And then we're done. Okay, so I felt so mad at her. You guys, I wanted to do something for her and she blocked it. Okay, so I had to at least buy a drink. But I was more mad for her. I was more mad for her that she'll never experience what it's like to have people genuinely love you and want to do something for you. She taught herself early on, I'm just trying to accommodate the people who don't give a shit about me, to have them in the room. That's what I'm trying to do. And I'm thanking God that even though you guys know the things I've come through and the way I've been treated and the way I grew up, I mustered up enough self-esteem to be this person and to have certain boundaries around me. Well, I'm going to close right here. I just want to thank you for taking the time to listen to this message. And if you haven't already started subscribing to my new channel, please do so. It's called Wisdom Served. Thank you for always supporting and listening, and you have a great day. Bye-bye.